Oh, hold on, I gotta bring up. Sorry. Studio, YouTube. It should be live streaming now, I believe. Okay, yeah, it should be. All good on your end there?
Yeah,
All
looks
right.
good to me.
All right.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Everyday Love. Back on YouTube again, and back here again with my friend Ashleigh Bergh, travel advisor, Disney lover, and all kinds of, and we'll get into um, not a fan of flying.
Correct.
Um,
Yes.
as
I'm gonna put
we
that on my resume. Does not like to fly.
Yeah, yeah. As a travel advisor, which I
Yes.
find fascinating, and so that's why I wanted to have you back in the first place because I wanted to check in with you regularly because you are starting a new business.
Mhm.
Last time you came on, it was very. You're not new to the travel business, but your own company is a
Yes.
new thing,
Yes. Yeah.
um, and so I wanted to check in periodically and see how things are going and what with starting it up. So
Yeah.
you sent me your website, which is now up and running. Am I right?
Is new. Yes.
Yeah.
Literally connected the domain yesterday. So I
Oh,
mean, it's like
fantastic.
brand new. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So what? So people know
Yeah.
what is the URL?
So the URL is my full name, my first name and last name. So it's Ashleigh Bergh and then dot travel,
Oh,
which is
cool.
very fun because I didn't even know dot travel was an option, but it's 2026. There's all sorts of dot
Yeah,
everything around there.
yeah. So since we last spoke, and you were sort of in the nascent stages of all of this, how are things going since then? Beside the website, what else has
Yeah.
been happening for you?
No, it's been going great. I mean, I say that, and I think most people who are, I feel like the people I've talked to who are building businesses, especially women, we often default to this like everything is great, everything is fine. Like the reality of it is, generally everything is great, and it really is. Some of it is frustration because I am your typical elder millennial eldest daughter who like feels like everything needs to be perfect before it launches and goes out. Some of it is just still after doing this for so many years, not knowing what I don't know, and then realizing in the moment, oh, I have to go and do that or make this thing, or I don't. This doesn't exist, so now I have to go create it. So I had a boss once who said, one of the directives he gave me was that like he doesn't like to build the car while driving it,
Hmm.
and I am trying very hard not to do that and trying to think through all of the possibilities so that the foundation of everything is done. But the reality of it is like sometimes things come your way and you kind of just have to roll with it, which is great. It means that people are interested in traveling and they're reaching out to me, and I'm working on some very cool trips, which I would have never expected to be working on. So even there, I'm loving the exposure to new places and types of travel and like different companies to travel with. I feel like every day I'm learning something new, even through that, even through clients who are coming to me and saying, hey, I really want to do X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with this? Sure. And then I get on the internet. I'm like, all right, how do I do this? Who do I talk to? What do I need to know about traveling to Croatia versus traveling to Japan?
Hmm.
Very different things. Very different than traveling in the United States. So that part has been, I think, the most fun for me. But it is making my own personal travel bucket list much longer
Okay.
because now I'm doing working on trips for clients. And then, I didn't have Croatia high on my bucket list. And now I'm looking at photos of it going, maybe I do want to go to Croatia
Yeah.
someday. So, um, but it really is so fun to be doing something that I'm passionate about and that I get to chase my curiosity around and build it myself. And that is very cool. It's just hard to articulate how um, grateful I am to be in the position I am where I can do that. Because
Mhm.
I don't know that 10 years ago, if you and I had had this conversation, if I would have thought that this would be where I'd be.
Yeah. Well, same. I didn't know that I'd be doing
Yeah.
what I'm doing right
Right.
now and talking to you in this capacity. That's
Right.
that's a whole crazy thing too. That's a podcast in of itself. Like
It
people,
is.
like the difference shifts that you have, like in that over that long stretch. Um,
Yes.
one thing I'm curious about is, you're launching the business sort of
Mhm.
over these months. The
Yes.
website live today and all this kind of, and yet you have, looking at the website, the list of things you're already working on is substantial. Um, how did the client base you have now come to you if you're launching? Like,
Yeah.
where do they generally find you before that?
That's a great question. So, the majority of my current clients are all referral based for the most part. Um, for a long time, as you know, Disney was like my sole focus.
Mhm.
This is where my expertise lies. It will always be, um, my number one love for many, many reasons. And I really focused and honed in on that while I was building this business part time because it was something I knew, you know, I could close my eyes and I knew it, right? It's just something that's kind of written into my DNA. But now that I've shifted and started like really launching this business and building it full time, one thing that a lot of my current clients don't know or didn't know because it never came up was that as a travel advisor, I can literally work on anything. I can book anything.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean that I don't still do Disney, but like I can now go to them and say, hey, if you want to go on a cruise or you need 3 nights at a hotel room, or, you are trying to figure out like, can I do 2 weeks in Europe with a small group tour, whatever it might be, like come to me, let me help you figure it out. And I think even that conversation and me sharing that with people has help them shift sort of from like, oh, Ashleigh does, only Disney to like Ashleigh does more than Disney. Part of that is also on me because it would just never be a thing that I would talk to people about. Like, hey, I could also book that. Um, and though I appreciate people thinking of me first when it comes to Disney, that is like such a uh, compliment. Um, this shift into so many other types of travel is something I've become incredibly passionate and knowledgeable about. So most, like I said, most of my clients are referrals or people I know or people I know who have referred me to other people. And I would say a couple of them are folks that I do not have any connection that have found me in some capacity. But most of my clients right now are referral based, which is great because there's some built in trust, I think, that I have to live up to, which is a little scary, but I do my best to meet everybody's expectations. I don't want to let anybody down.
Yeah, of course. How important Disney obviously is, you're very knowledgeable because you've spent a lot of time there as a traveler, as a fan, and
Yeah.
all that. How important is it if we're talking about something like Croatia or Japan, which I think is on your website as things you're working on actively
Mhm.
for clients? How important is it for you to visit anywhere that you're helping people to go?
It's a great question. So there are two schools of thought. One is that it is for sure always the best if you can go to those places, right? If you can go to those places and experience them yourself firsthand, you're going to have just a breadth of knowledge that you can't get just by reading articles and that sort of thing. That being said, I would say, at least in my case, I don't have the budget to like just casually fly off to Japan for a week or to Croatia, or at least in the amount of time it would take for me to come back and say to a client, here's all the information you need to know. So, one of the things that I try to do as a travel advisor, and I think a lot of travel advisors do this, is we look at where we don't have personal experience and we shift our um, research and support to suppliers who do.
Okay.
So one thing that people might see referenced in a lot of travel talk is what's called a DMC, which is a destination management company,
Hmm.
and these are companies who are often like in the location or in the area that this person wants to travel to, and they are the like on the ground experts. This is the thing that they do. They know all the hotels, they know all the guides, they know the time of year you should go and what the best routes are and all that. Like they are your experts on Japan, Croatia, France, Italy, whatever it might be. And so because I have access to those folks, I can go to them and say, hey, I have a client who is interested in going to Croatia. Here's their dates, here's what they want, here's what they don't want.
Hmm.
Here are some questions that I foresee them probably asking, and I do a lot of sort of soul searching and a little bit of like pulling stuff out of my clients to find out like what they don't like, what they need, what they don't want, and using a little bit of that EQ to figure out like, okay, I'm going to proactively ask these questions so that when that DMC partner comes back to me and says, yep, let's talk through it, they're giving me something that is aligned with what the client is looking for and not just like a copy and paste itinerary you can find on the internet. A lot of those details, the stuff that I get really nerdy about is the amount of time it takes to go from one location to another. I had a client that was interested in doing a trip across Europe, and on a map, Italy doesn't look that big. But when you actually start to like map out the distances between different locations, you're talking about 6 to 8 hours in a car on a bus going from here to there. So I like to take clients' ideas and run with them and then come back to them and say, this is doable. Like you can do it, but do you want to spend 8 hours in a car going from here to here? And if so, what are we losing out on
Right.
on either end, right? So it's things like that that over time I've started to kind of anticipate and try to share that information with the destination suppliers, so that because in cases where I don't have that firsthand experience, I can at least trust that I'm talking to somebody who literally lives in Croatia and is telling me exactly what I need to know to share that with my clients. So the clients are in good hands.
Right. Um, how important is it? So I was just going to say, there seems to be
Yeah.
a certain number of, there's a certain amount of being therapist to these folks. It sounds like, well, what do you really want? Like, what,
Yes.
like you say, oh,
Yes.
I want to go to Europe.
Yeah.
The wife and kids and I want to take a trip across Europe. Okay. What do you want to get out of that? What's
Right.
important? They really have to do little work,
Yeah. It's therapy. I mean, there is a
internal
lot of
work.
therapy to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There
That
is a lot of therapy to it.
I never thought of that before. That's interesting.
Well, and that comes up, I think, often. This comes up a lot when we talk about like budgets and the cost of things, right? I I think, all right, it's 2026. If somebody's watching this 5 years from now, hopefully this isn't still the case. But like everything is expensive right now. Everything is expensive, and I think that there is this often a hesitation from folks who don't want to share the amount of money they are budgeting to spend on something,
Hmm.
especially when they don't know how much it will cost. And that's fair. Like if you have no idea how much something is going to cost, how could you possibly know like if your budget aligns or doesn't align?
Mhm.
So what I try to do is before I even ask people specific numbers, I say to them like, what when you go on a trip or you think about like your best vacation, what were the parts of it that you remember the most, that made you the happiest, that made you the most comfortable? And what were the parts that you were like, man, I wish I didn't spend XYZ money on blah, blah, blah. Um, this comes up a lot with Disney. It's easy with Disney because there's so many ways to stay at Disney. There's so many ways to tour the parks. I think about it when I think about like flying. So I am not a good flyer. I am terrified to fly. I don't like being in airplanes. So for me, I allocate more of my budget towards my airline tickets so that I can control my comfort level, right?
Ah.
The seat type I'm in, uh, a nonstop flight is my goal all the time. I do not want to get off of an airplane and get back on an airplane. I want to be one and done. Um, and also just being able to select my seat, like all these things are important to me. These are like my personal travel values. So I'm going to put my budget and allocate my budget that way. But I have a best friend who loves to fly, literally can sleep on a plane. Like she sits down, she puts her headphones on, she is out the entire time. I wish that was my life. She literally does not care. Like she's going to go for the cheapest flight she can find because to her it's not important, right? It does not impact her enjoyment of whatever travel she's doing. So when part of that therapy is figuring out like what is actually important in the budget and what is something that like doesn't actually need a lot of the budget allocated towards it because it's just a non uh it doesn't have an impact on the overall enjoyment of the trip.
Right, right.
So we do a lot. There's a lot of therapy around that. A lot of like, what what's going to make you the most comfortable? when you look at your credit card statement afterwards, is there something on that credit card statement you're like, oh man, that was painful? Some stuff we can avoid, some stuff we can't. But knowing that helps me guide people into like, okay, this is, if you really want to do this thing and you want this experience, this is roughly how much it's going to cost you. And then people can make decisions based on that and decide how they want to shift things accordingly.
Wow. Since we got into flying, as is something I was really interested in talking to you about, because at the end of our last show, after the live stream stopped, we were chatting a bit about future ideas for conversations, and you mentioned,
Mhm.
well, what might be interesting to talk about is that I really don't like flying. I do
I
not like
don't.
it. It is my least favorite thing of the whole process. And
Yes.
what I was thinking about this yesterday, and a lot of times when I'm trying to connect the dots in my head, I go to the books that my daughter reads. That's a
Mhm.
lot of my reading, and I'm a little ashamed to say this, is what my daughter reads, which is wonderful stuff. And so one of the series of books that she really enjoys is called Mercy Watson. It's a series of books about a pig, a family that owns a pig in a town and all this. And the street is called Deckaroo Drive that they live on. And there are a series of novellas, a little longer, that have spun out from this. And one of the novellas follows a young girl who's in second grade named Stella and her sort of nemesis in class, a boy named Horace. And they're in second grade, and they end up, through a series of circumstances, getting trapped, locked in a janitor's closet.
Oof.
And the boy, who's very, very smart and very brainy, starts to freak out. And he says, earlier he has said he wants to be an astronaut.
Okay.
So he starts to freak out and he says, oh no, turn the light on. I have claustrophobia. And she looks at him and says, that doesn't sound like a good thing for an astronaut to have. And I was thinking that with you a little bit, like, you know, if you were in a children's book and it would be like,
Uh-huh.
okay, travel advisor Ashleigh on the adventures of, and oh, I don't want to get on the plane. I'm scared of flying. And the character
Yeah.
says, that doesn't seem like a good thing for a travel advisor to have. So, um, my question is, um, how do you, where do you think that comes from, and how do you manage that as part of your process? Because you travel a lot.
Yes. Yeah. It's a great
Last night.
question. It is. It is also something that is. Everybody I say this to is like, huh? What? I don't. What? So it. Yes. It invokes a lot of confusion. I'm even confused by it sometimes, but I also understand where it comes from. So for me, um, as a child, my parents, we as a family, we used to fly at least once a year to Florida. My dad had a work conference he would go to. And so, like, from all the things that my parents have told me, I was a very happy traveler as a kid. I loved getting on the airplanes. I loved like getting snacks and talking to the flight attendants. Like, I was very much into it. But being the elder millennial that I am, and you know this, I think we as a society have collectively lived through some pretty traumatic plane scenarios and
Mhm.
situations. September 11th being one of them, obviously, but there's been plenty of others. And I think a lot of those, at the time that I started becoming aware of what was happening in the world and becoming more cognizant and understanding like what I was watching on the news and in my brain understanding what that meant in reality was like the same time probably when my brain was really starting to like form. I'm sure that there's some neuroscience around this. But all that to say is like that really, I think the buildup of those things started to impact my comfort in flying. What's interesting is that I actually, and you and I were just talking about this, but like I actually love going to the airport. I actually like airports. I like, shopping. I love an airport lounge. Like I love watching planes come and go. I love seeing people reunite in customs. Like I love the airport, which is why it's very weird that I am terrified to fly. But the part of flying specifically that I do not like is turbulence. I
Okay.
have no problem on takeoff. I have no
Oh, okay.
problem on landing. If it is a smooth flight, everything's fine. If we even hit a little bit of turbulence, my brain,
Hmm.
it goes into fight, flight, or freeze. Like there is a deep rooted level of panic. I've had conversations with lots of people smarter than me who are like, planes don't go down with turbulence. You're
Mhm.
fine. All of the things. Logic does not apply in these scenarios. Like, there's no way for me to talk myself out of it. And I've done everything over the years. medication. I did hypnosis. I did a couple sessions of hypnosis, which was really interesting.
Mm.
But the thing that has helped me the most in the most recent years is a program called Dial a Pilot. I make nothing there. I'm saying this firsthand. I paid for it. I make nothing on referencing them, but this is how much it helped
No,
me.
no, no,
Um,
no sponsorship here.
no sponsorship. Nope. Nothing like that. And they are a company that quite literally hire retired airline pilots who will hop on Zoom calls and talk to people who are afraid of flying and like talk through whatever it is about the flying that freaks you out. So I was like, you know what? I'm why not? Right. I've tried everything. Let's just see. Maybe this will be the thing.
Mhm.
And I get on a Zoom call with this pilot. He's in Arizona. He had retired. He'd been a pilot for like 22 years. And he started to ask me like what I was afraid of. And I started to explain it to him. And he laughed. And he said, I'm not laughing at your fear, but most people, it's the takeoff,
I
it's
was
the
about to
landing.
say,
Yeah. The landing, he said, was the number one thing
yeah,
that freaks people out.
that's the thing that's tough, I think,
Yeah.
for me.
Um, and the takeoff, right? Like the landing because you're seeing the ground come up to meet you,
Very
and the
yes.
takeoff because you're seeing the ground leave you, right? Like both of those things. I was like, I sit in a window seat because I am claustrophobic. I actually love watching. Like this is why it's so strange. I love watching the world from the airplane. I take photos. Like it's
Yeah, I've
very
seen the photos.
bizarre.
Yeah.
But turbulence. And he was like, okay. He was like, let me explain to you what that actually means from a pilot's perspective. And he walked me through what happens while they're sitting in the cockpit.
Okay.
And one of the questions, I could ask questions. And one of the questions I asked him was like, do you know that turbulence is coming?
Mm.
Because it's air, it's hard. I can't imagine that there's some sort of measurement. And he was like, no, that's a great question. And one of the things he told me is that, a lot of the routes, there are a lot of planes that are flying the same route, right? So another plane could be 30 minutes ahead of you on the same flight path. They will radio to each other and be like, hey, heads up, we hit some bumpy air. It's like in my job as the pilot and the co-pilot is to like try to maneuver around it. Sometimes we have time, we can go up, sometimes we can go down. Like, we don't want anybody to be uncomfortable on a plane. So we do our best with what we have to avoid that. Sometimes we can't, sometimes we can, and we try to alert everybody if we know it's coming to get, over the radio, say like, hey, heads up, we're going to put the seatbelt sign back
Mhm.
on, this might be a little bumpy, blah, blah, blah. He's like, sometimes you can't, but this is what it looks like. This is how it feels to us. This is what it means. And he talked me through the science of it. And it was really eye opening to hear it from somebody who admitted, like, I don't like to fly through it either. It's
Mhm.
annoying. Like, it's annoying for everybody. So, that has been very, very helpful. I feel like I have in the last 2 years, year and a half, my fear has not been as bad.
Mm.
So much so that a couple weeks ago, I was in Portland, Oregon for a wedding and took a small plane
Oh,
tour of Mount Hood
a
out
tour.
of Portland, a
Oh, wow.
tour,
Wow. So that's
an
very
hour.
intentional.
Yes, like
Yeah.
a tiny, like two seats in the front, two seats in the back,
Yeah. Oh my
tiny,
God.
tiny
Okay.
little plane right up
Wow.
to the mountain. And we hit some turbulence.
Yeah.
We did, going up. But again, I told the pilot and she walked me through it as we
Mhm.
were doing it. She's like, it's the cold air meeting the hot air. And like, that's what does it. And then once we get to a certain flight, and it was a little nerve wracking, but man, getting up there, I mean, the views were spectacular. It was just
Yeah.
incredible.
So worth it.
For me,
Yeah.
100% it was
For
worth
you.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
100% it was
Yeah.
worth it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm ready to fly a plane myself, but like
Well,
I'm I'm trying to face the fear. If I'm going to be on a plane even more now than before, I'm trying to address it head on.
yeah. So when you're on the flight, when it's actually happening and you're up there, do you have techniques or things or fidgets or things that when it's in the moment
Mhm.
that you go to just help alleviate things?
Uh, okay, so this is my go-to. So when I'm on a plane, I have a playlist on Spotify that I listen to. It's a lot of like, this is a very niche regional reference, but you will understand this, Adam.
Okay. Okay.
It's a lot of songs you would hear on like Bedtime Magic.
Oh, oh wow. Yes.
Yes.
I know
Okay.
what I know what that means. Yes.
Yes. It's a very niche reference to a radio station here in New England.
Yes.
But it's a lot of that. So it's a lot of like ballads, soft rock,
Yeah. Yeah.
calm music. Um, I have a couple of games on my phone that I
Okay.
have that will distract me, that I'll focus on. Sometimes I'll watch movies, but if I'm not into the movie, that can be really hard to
Okay.
uh, navigate. Um, so those are usually my go-to. I sometimes, I'll bring a notebook and pens and we'll listen to music and we'll like doodle, like
Okay.
anything to kind of just shut my brain off. And the less I hear around me, the better is what works for me. Um, I try to sleep. If I can fall asleep before the plane takes off, I'll sleep through the whole thing and it's amazing. That doesn't always happen. So like I don't drink caffeine on the days that I fly. Um, I avoid certain foods. I try not to drink a ton of water before I get on the plane so I don't have to get up to use the restroom because being in the window seat, I then have to have people move and that isn't fun. And I try to sit as close to the front of the plane as possible
Okay. Okay.
so I can get on and off as quick as needed. And I try to keep everything I need in my personal item. So I never have to go up to,
Okay. Yeah.
my luggage at the top.
All right. So
I don't,
when
it, the playlist has been a stalwart that I've had for years that
okay.
I have not diverted from. The other things I've tried different things here and there. And like this is kind of the stuff that, and I should say, I also have a Nintendo Switch. So sometimes I'll bring my
Mm,
Switch and I'll
mm,
literally just play, Zelda,
yeah.
which I get so focused on what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
so, uh, like just knowing in the game that I have to do something or I'm trying to, win a battle or whatever it is, that it helps me disassociate from any sort of
Yeah.
bumpiness on the plane.
Yeah. What is the longest flight you've taken?
Oh, good question. I think the longest flight has been from Boston to Rome, which
Okay.
I think was eight
Okay.
hours and some change, maybe. Um, and that one was rough because it was also a red eye, and because I don't sleep, I don't do well on red eyes.
Oh. So you
Yeah,
haven't done any jaunts to Asia, which is the,
no,
20-hour, 20 like that kind of a where it's an all-day affair.
yeah. I genuinely, it's not even the flying because I know that the bigger planes, in theory, you feel less turbulence because of how big the plane is. I can't imagine how I'm going to entertain myself for 20 hours.
Well, in
So
theory, you're
that's my
sleeping and eating too.
hesitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, but knowing that I struggle to sleep, that's
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
But I do want to go to parts of Asia. And so
Mhm.
the way to do that might be like, I may have to stop in London for a day just to break it up a little bit. In cases like that, that's where I start to weigh, you know, not having a direct flight.
Mhm.
Um, but hopefully we'll get there. If I can get the like 6 to 8 hour flights down, then I can work my way up to the longer ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I applaud you for because some people might say, you know what, maybe this is not even though I love doing this, maybe this isn't the career for me, or maybe my travel needs to be a bit more locally. I need to be locally focused, or car adjacent focused, or not plane, or
Yeah,
something. Yeah. But I applaud you for saying this is not going to stop me from doing the thing I really want to do.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think for me it was a, the excitement and the adventure and the happiness that I get when I travel and get to explore new places far outweighs the fear that I have that is so temporary because it really is temporary. I mean, it's if there's no turbulence on a flight, I am fine. It is such a small thing, but it can like really impact my enjoyment of the flight, especially if it lasts for a long time. So at some point, I had to weigh those things, and this was before I was even in this business. It was just if I want to go places and see places, this is a sacrifice I'm going to have to make, and I'm just going to have to muscle through it and have figured out ways that work for me. Um, and that is hard, but I also think that I've had a lot of conversations with clients who are in the same boat and
Mm-hmm.
have mentioned it to them. And they, I think, have felt a sense of relief knowing, oh, just because this is what you do for a living doesn't mean you're immune to the things that make, you know, some of us nervous. Like, nope, I get it. Like, I 100% understand. Here are all the things that I do. I don't know if this is going to be helpful to you,
Mm-hmm.
but um, it's a real thing. And my feeling is I never want anybody to feel like that fear uh, should impact their ability to like travel and enjoy and visit places, if that's the only thing that's kind of holding them back.
Wow. Well, that's very inspirational to end on. I think we're wrapping up here, and that's really that's great too. I was going to ask if it's a point of connection you can have with your clients, and it sounds like it is.
Yes, yes.
Um, so thank you again for coming on today.
Thank you for having
As
me.
I want to ask, as I always do, what's
Yeah.
how are how is creativity helping you to get through your challenging times?
Well, what's funny is like right now, the creativity to that point is like I've gotten very into doing a lot of uh, there's a name for it, which I think it's neurographic art,
Oh,
which I think that's the name of it. But essentially, it's a certain kind of doodling. It's kind of like Zentangling, if anybody knows what that is. That's been very helpful on planes because it really is meditative. So that has been very helpful as I'm ramping up into a heavy travel season for my business. I have kept a sketchbook and a bunch of pens in my bag, and now I'm sketching on planes, and that seems to be helping. So that kind of creativity seems to actually really be helping my business because it's getting me emotionally through something that is scary. And then I come out feeling more ready to take on whatever's next when I land.
nice. And you've made something. You've made a piece of art in the process.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
good art or bad art. I don't know that it is any good, but like it's art.
Yeah, it's art and it's yours. That's great.
Yes.
Ashley Bergh, travel advisor. If you could remind people where they find you again.
Sure. My website is my first name, it's ASHLEIGH, and my last name, BERGH.travel.
Great. And that's where they go to find out what you do, get a hold of you, and all that.
Yes, yes. And please visit because it's brand new.
Yeah.
So, and any issues, please also email me and let me know because I need to know if something's broken.
Yeah. It's a very nice site, very easy to navigate. It's
Thank you.
really, yeah. So congrats on that.
Appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
we'll see you again here, in a little bit to
Yeah,
check in and see how things are
sounds
going.
good.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks for having
Thank,
me again, Adam.
thank you, Ashley. Really
All
appreciate
right.
it.